Hey guys, Martin here from Big Boy Plants, and in today's video I will be sharing how I propagated my Heartleaf Philodendron from this mother plant that you can see here to this new plant that has been successfully propagated. Maybe you're interested in propagating yours as well, so hopefully this video will serve you as a guide. And a while back I got this Heartleaf Philodendron and I like it so much that a few weeks after I got these other three that you can see here with different colors and textures. Some of them trailed down more than others. And boy, I realized that they behave very similar to pothos plants. Indeed, it was a bit difficult for me to get to know the difference between these two species. But long story short, I found online that the Heartleaf Philodendron is very straightforward to propagate, following a very similar process to the one used for pothos propagation. By the way, I wanted to give a big shout out to Techplant because most of the steps that I will show you here for my Heartleaf Philodendron are based on his pothos propagation video. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so it is important to say that propagating and growing a Heartleaf Philodendron is a doable task for a plant amateur like me. So the process that I will show you up next refers to propagation in water and then repotting the cutting with roots to soil. Alright, so let's get started with the materials that you will need. First and foremost, we will need a base, glass, or water holding container. I usually like to use bases like this one, or if you have a bigger one, that should work. Then we'll need water. Heartleaf philodendrons draw their nutrients from water, so it must be enough to cover the roots and initially the node from your cutting. Ideally, this water shouldn't contain chemicals, so if you can use distilled and a little bit of H water, that should work well. Then a sharp scalpel or shears, like any cutting tool that you have. This will help you to make a clean cut and protect the mother plant from damage. Also, a good cut will help the new vine grows faster and roots better. Please take into account that the cutting tools should be sterilized with alcohol, and this is to avoid contaminating the plant. Last but not least, and this one is optional, you can use training equipment or a mechanism to kind of give a desired shape to the propagated plant. Basically, a Heartleaf Philodendron will grow into a bushy plant. So water may not necessarily provide sufficient support and it may fall off of the container. So sometimes it might be useful to use a string or a hook to provide training points to keep the plant in shape and growing in a specific direction that you desire. Now, the first step that you will need to do before making a cutting or trimming your philodendron is to pick your plant, right? So you want to choose a plant that is healthy, that is free of diseases or pests, and that has been showing good growth during the past weeks or months. And this is very important because choosing a healthy plant will impact the health of the new plant that you want to propagate and grow. I know this may sound obvious, but I'm just mentioning this just in case. Also, keep in mind that there's a difference between choosing a young vine of this plant, which sometimes might fail to survive the shock of cutting from the mother plant. And on the other side, if you choose a very old vine, it will take time to sprout. So keep in mind that balance when choosing the vine. All right, so let's talk about the cutting. You should make a clean cut because it will produce the best results when propagating. And keep in mind that this will also affect the speed and chances of rooting of the new plant. Also, poor cutting may induce diseases like root rot and may also affect the mother plant. So that's why I wanted to be very emphatic in using a sanitized sharp tool like a knife or shears, because this will help you a lot to have a successful propagation. Last but not least, make sure to include a note in the cutting, and I'm showing this here, since the new plant will start rooting from the node mostly, and proper root development is key for a successful propagation. Okay, once you have a cutting, you only need to drop it in the vase or container with water. Keep in mind that in this phase, ideally, you should use natural water to grow your propagated Heartleaf Philodendron. Rainwater or distilled water, as I mentioned before, are the perfect options for your new Heartleaf Philodendron. The presence of chemicals like chlorine or fluoride in the water will inhibit or make slower the growth of your plant. Once you have it on the vase, keep in mind the following caring recommendations. First, it will need an environment with a lot of humidity so it can thrive faster. Second, these plants love warm areas with temperatures between 65 Fahrenheit, that's about 18 degrees Celsius, and 85 Fahrenheit, that's about 30 degrees Celsius. Third, keep it under indirect bright light mostly and avoid prolonged sunlight exposure. If you keep it near to a window, make sure to rotate the vase or container so you can have a good distribution of light among the different leaves. Also, you should change the water every other week. Some owners report that just filling the vase after you notice that some water has evaporated should do the work. But the most important thing you should take into account is to keep an eye that mold doesn't appear. And if you see this, you should right away change the water. All right. So with proper care, after some weeks or days, you should start seeing roots coming out and your cutting will start growing its ramifications healthily. Now this indicates that propagation is going in good shape and you are on the right path. Last but not least, let's talk about one of the most discussed topics around Heartleaf Philodendron propagation. And this goes around the question if you should move your new plant to a pot with soil. We can sum things up saying that the Heartleaf Philodendron loves comfort. And when it begins to grow in water, it prefers, or it may show strong preference to remain there. Some owners state that the roots won't be strong enough to succeed in soil, since they started growing in water originally. However, I disagree a bit with this theory, and I think you can still transfer it from water to the soil, as I did here. And I'll be honest, this is kind of an experimental phase where I'm proving my hypothesis, and the plant will appear to wilt for a week after you do this transition, but eventually will regain its vibrance within the days. Then, so far you can see that the new plant is growing well and it has green, vibrant leaves. Make sure to prepare a potting mix made of well-drained, moist soil, and make sure to place the root field stock in the container and start pouring the soil around it until the roots are spread and properly covered. Then place the new pot plant in a spot that receives indirect bright light, but keep it away from prolonged direct sunlight exposure. And in the end, I leave it up to you whether you prefer to propagate in water only or later repot your plant after it has root in water. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I hope this guide is useful in case you are in the process or you're looking forward to propagating your Heartleaf Philodendron plant. Again, if you have any comments, any suggestions, or something that we didn't mention here, please post them below. I would love to check them out and add them later on in an updated version of this video. If you like this video, also we appreciate the thumbs up, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us a lot to keep pumping new content every week. Also, if you're interested in checking more details about Heartleaf Philodendron, I'll leave a link below in the description to our guide in our blog if you want to check it out. And again, thanks for your support. I hope to see you soon in the next video. Until then, happy planting.